Today, we live in an era of customer service. Customer is the king. Every organization, corporate, government, or non-government, consider customer as the pivot of all their operations. Today, as part of Leadership Series by Global TV, we are very happy to bring one such person who is known as Guru of Customer Relationship Management, Dr. Mohan Agarwal. Dr. Agarwal, welcome to our discussion on Leadership Series.
Thank you very much, sir.
Dr. Agarwal is currently the chairman of Indo-Gulf Management Association. He is a recipient of the Golden Visa from the UAE government, probably the first one in the private educational sector. He is a Fulbright scholar from US, EFMD Europe Fellow from Paris, British Council Fellow London. He is on the US Advisory Panel on CRM and Customer Experiences. He was ranked among the 250 fabulous education leaders in 2019. He has led many international conferences, led many research programs, especially in the field of customer service. He is a recipient of large number of awards and recognitions. I can keep talking about Dr. Agarwal. And he has also been a faculty in many leading management institutions in India and abroad, and continues to be so. Dr. Agarwal, thank you so much for joining us today on this discussion.
Thank you very much, Tom, for
Leadership
having
Series.
me.
And I'm sure your words of wisdom will definitely enlighten our listeners.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tom. I really appreciate this opportunity to be here and to contribute to the cause of both customer centricity and customer satisfaction, probably to the stage where customers can say that we are delighted with this service. And I hope that this program goes into that direction as well.
We would be more focusing on the leadership part of it. I'm sure leaders are the cause of good customer service. If the leader doesn't take it into heart, the organization doesn't follow. I just had a couple of questions which are probably more personal, related to your personality and your, leadership style.
Yes.
One is, some leaders show leadership quality from a very early age in life, like maybe in the school and in colleges. Some leaders show it much later and evolve over a period of time. What has been your experience? Have you been a leader from early childhood, school days, college days, or you built it up as you grew in the organizations?
Thank you, Tom. That's a very loaded question for me, because it will be difficult for me to say whether I have been a leader or not, or at any point of my life, whether it is early stage or now or maybe later. But I do say this, that I have been a person who took initiatives. And in that particular initiatives, I also failed many times, but I never stopped taking initiatives and never stopped taking risks, even of the consequences of the bad initiatives, because as you know, each initiative which is successful has several fathers, but any initiative which failed has only a mom to talk about, but no father at any point of time. So as a result, I also believe that leadership is about initiatives, leadership about taking consequences, as well as probably the entire learning out of it for that particular initiative that a person has done. From that point of view, I have been taking initiatives right from my childhood. My father, who was I would say, middle class businessman, I wouldn't even call a businessman, but he was mostly like a store owner, cloth store owner in a very historically very well-known place in India called Jhansi, UP. So we were in Jhansi, UP, and I used to help my father, observe him, learn from him, and see that how he used to deal with the customers, with the outsiders. He wasn't very highly educated, maybe standard 1 or standard 2. He could hardly sign his thing, but he could write without, in his own way. So I think I learned from him that taking initiative is not a function of education. Taking initiative is not a function of being rich. Taking initiative is not being in the seat of power. It only means that what is your mission in life? And that is what I thought, that if my mission is to serve myself, to serve my fellow men, to serve the society I live in that case, I need to take initiatives and must also accept both good and bad consequences with the same humility, with the same experience that one should have. That is what I did. And that continued throughout my period, because just one more example, that when I went to study at Allahabad University, before that I did all my schooling in Hindi, in high school in Hindi, intermediate in Hindi. But even at the University of Allahabad, where fortunately I topped in both my graduation and master program, I took English as a medium of instruction. And believe me, I could not understand for almost a month what my professors were saying. But still within 2 or 3 months, I took participation into a debate, university debate in English. And I was very happy that I was placed number 1 on that particular debate. So if that is the case, if that is the index of anybody's leadership, then I would say probably I did learn, I did experience, I did a lot of initiatives, whether asked or unasked. That is what I would say.
So taking initiative is a skill which is essential for a leader, and you showed it from an early age in your childhood. I mean, that is the conclusion which I am drawing from this. Did your leadership have any influence from any particular person in your life?
Again, it will be a little bit difficult for me to say that who was influenced from me, but I do have both oral as well as written letters of appreciation, both from India, in the UAE and in USA, where my learners, students, co-faculty, they told me that they had a life-changing experience with me. That is what they told me. Now, if that is again an indication of my influence, probably I'm guilty of that. And to that extent, I will take the blame that, yes, I did some kind of thing for them. But to my knowledge, I think whosoever is with me, whether it is 30 years or 40 years, they have never forgotten me. My name itself is good enough for them to remember each and everything. Like, for instance, there are now many CEOs in India who were my direct students. And just one name, MLA, which is Mohan Lal Agarwal, MLA, is enough for them to remember each and everything, whether they are chief of Vodafone, or whether they are chief of Hindustan Unilever, or whether they are chief of Microsoft or Twitter, any of them. They will definitely remember that so I was very hard to forget teacher. That is something which I would like to say. The same goes with my training also, that wherever I trained, people remembered my corporate training programs for decades, not just years or not just months, but decades. So from that point of view, I think I did have a little bit of imprint on them. But whether that imprint amounted to influence, I do not know. But I would definitely say I received very good feedback.
Excellent. I've heard this MLA from someone else recently. When I was talking to him about you, he said, yes, we will never forget Dr. Mohan, because he was known in the campus as MLA.
As MLA, correct. Yes, yes.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Now, any particular incident you think has had a life-changing experience for you in your leadership journey?
Yes, there were some, and those I would always remember with gratitude. Right. For instance, those people definitely changed the course of my life. One person
Okay.
was, when he came to meet me, he was a very senior professor at that time, my teacher's teacher. So he told me certain things which I never forgot in my life. For instance, he said, he's no more now. He said that, Mohan, you are changing you are adopting a profession which is of
Okay.
momentary pride and permanent penury. This is the word he used, poverty, penury. He used the word. I was very struck by what he said. And I said, I hope that these two things change, that what is permanent becomes temporary, and what becomes
Okay.
temporary also becomes permanent, that at least the ratio. And that is what I tried to do, that I tried to leave a little bit of this. So that was change number one. Change number two, which in my life happened when I was in Amritsar
Okay.
during the time of that Punjab agitation, and Sant
Okay.
Bhindranwale was there, and India was reeling under the terrorism at that particular time. And I was there
Yeah.
at that time in Amritsar, in the university, Guru Nanak Dev University. I think
Okay.
that particular thing changed me a lot, because then I went to Reserve Bank of India, Mumbai, where I had the good fortune of working under the leadership of Dr. C. Ranganathan, who was the deputy governor
Okay.
at that time, and Dr. Manmohan
Yes.
Singh, who was the governor of Reserve Bank at that time. These two people, though they wouldn't know me directly because I was several rungs below them, but they
Right.
did read some of the things that I wrote at that time, and that made a difference to me. And that made me that think that I must get back to education rather than in the corporate life, because
Okay.
that is where my voice will be heard better than when being in the system. Because in the system, my voice will be subject to restriction 1, 2, 3, 4, clearance 1, 2, 3, 4. But as a
Right.
professor, I wouldn't need any clearance, any approval from anyone to share. So I joined Accelerate. I think probably my life has been turned into a different direction only by Jesuits fathers and the Accelerate. I would never
Okay.
forget my debt of gratitude to this organization, which made me largely what I am.
Excellent. So I think you had the opportunity to influence many leaders rather than being in the corporate and taking care of only one corporate. Probably your influence on many corporates are happening now, and it will continue to happen.
That's what I thought, and that's what
Yeah.
happened also, actually, because in the profession which I'm in this
Right.
profession, you only are limited by your thoughts, not by
Right. Right.
the bureaucracy, not by the hierarchy, not by, because there is ample scope for anyone to shine, rise and
Right.
shine without hurting the feelings of anyone, or without stamping the feet of anyone, because this is an open field of academic excellence.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it doesn't matter that 10 people are working from the same institution at the same time. All 10 of them have equal right, equal opportunities, and equal freedom to rise to the level of excellence or lack, whatever they have to that particular point. So I
Right.
don't think I could have received a better blessing from God than this profession of teaching. I think this is the blessing to me by the God.
Leadership is, mostly about facing challenges. In your journey, have you come across any big challenge, and how did you manage it? And what would be your advice to the leaders how to face a challenge?
I think that is a very, very important question that you have asked. You see, when I was in XLRI, as you know, Jesuits only can become the director. They, others cannot, become that. But I wanted to be the director because I thought that I can make that kind of difference. So the next best option for me was to go out of, XLRI for some time on what is known as professional leave. And I took the professional leave and took over almost like 27 or 28 years as a director of a business school in Calcutta. Now,
Okay.
that was a private business school. Believe me, I don't want to narrate one after another challenges that I faced on a daily basis, as the director of that particular business school, that I learned a lot. Let me just put it like that. And when I came back after that particular period, back to
Right.
Accelerate, my director asked me only one question. Mohan, welcome back. Could you tell me that what is the lesson you have brought with you now with this experience? So I told him, I said, Father, next time when you say no to me, I would not ask you the question why. Because being there at the top, I now know that many times you have to say no to the people you love, to the people you like, because resources are limited, but
Right.
claimants are many. And as a
Correct.
result, all you have to be is to judicious, fair, and mission oriented, or rather than friends oriented or colleagues oriented or relationship oriented. Mission is the most important thing. That is what kept me going during those 2 years of leadership at that time. That was my first experience as a leader of a business school in the private sector.
Right. I think your philosophy that we should be all mission oriented as leaders. I think it's a very, very valid lesson, which will help us to overcome the challenges.
I
Very
hope so.
interesting. To you,
I,
because you have,
if I may add few things,
yep,
Tom,
yeah,
as a leader, I believe, and I still believe that the role of a leader is to create many more leaders wherever
right,
you are.
right, right,
Rather than just be known as the leader, you should
right,
become the facilitator of either micro leadership or regional leadership or any other kind of leadership without any fear or this kind of thing that one day this person will replace me. No one can
right,
replace you, although they can
correct,
replace you in terms of job, responsibilities, or designation. And
right,
sometimes you do have the pleasure of working with a person who was once your subordinate or who was reporting to you. But I think that itself is a wonderful way of learning from
correct.
reverse mentoring. That. So this was
Yes,
a
yes,
second point I did, that I
right,
always created and found and sought reverse mentors, the people who were young, the people who were probably not as experienced as I was. And then I
right,
would check back with them. Do you think I'm doing right? Is there something that I could do better? Is there anything that you think is, and don't think that your answers are going to affect your prospects. It will only
right,
affect my prospects and my relationship with you, that whether you are giving me an honest to truth feedback and opportunity to improve, rather than saying, well, I always believed and still believe this probably is the third point, that boss is never right necessarily just because he's the boss or she's the boss.
right,
It is the rightness or sense of rightness or wrongness doesn't come with the job description. It comes
right,
with the decision making that you have in that
correct,
particular job. So even bosses could be wrong. Even bosses may not know the best. Even subordinates may know better than the boss at that particular time. So why not seek that kind of thing? So
right,
therefore, this is the third thing that I did, that I sought reverse mentors and I always tried to take them. And the fourth thing which I probably did, which I would like to probably say it with a little bit of pride, that I believed in the format of leadership, which was called at that time, even today it is now revered as one of the best theories of management, and that is called servant leadership.
very
I
nice,
believed
very
in my
nice,
life that leader is also a servant. And that
right,
servant leadership means that you are subservient to something which you have undertaken of the in the organization. So it could be mission, it could be vision, it could be people, it could be community, it could be stakeholders, it could be even your family also. So
right,
all stakeholders have expectations from you as,
right,
and your job is to be a servant leader rather than master leader. And I have never tried to be a master leader. I always tried to be a servant leader. And you can ask any people that I would speak the same way as I would speak, let us say, to the lowest person, let's say, in the organization, to the bosses, to the to super bosses, to the owners of the organizations also. And I
Very
would never,
nice.
hesitate in telling my mind if I believe that they are not right, or if I believe there is a better alternative, or
Right.
if I believe that the decision is not in the overall interest of the organization. And I never cared whether I was managing them or earning their wrath. I have never cared for that. But I
Right.
did care that whether this particular thing is right or not for the mission that I am entrusted with. And so I took my job description very, very seriously.
Very
That I
nice.
said, this is my job description, whether as a father, whether as a director, or whether as a professor, that what I have taken, and I don't care how many people have been in the process, angered,
Okay.
or, so yes, let them not be disappointed, but let them, if they're angry, that is, I can manage later. But at that particular moment, I would. And finally, I have also learned this thing, that a leader is one who is sought by the people on their way down, not on
Right.
the way up, but on the way down. That when they are coming, down, and when they seek you out, and when they praise you for the things, I thought this is probably to me the biggest compliment. That those who were my bosses, and they will seek my advice when on their way down. I thought that is something I will never forget, as again the blessing from the God.
Excellent. I just had one question, which is supplementing to this.
Sure.
Leaders have different type of qualities, multiple types. You can list out a number of qualities. Do you think there is one quality which every leader must have? Is there, or what is your opinion on this?
Without doubt that there are certain core qualities which should not be compromised by
Okay.
any person in whichever country, whichever company, whichever context the person is doing the leadership
Right.
role. And that particular thing is honesty to the mission. Honesty
Okay.
to the mission, not personal honesty necessarily, but
Right.
honesty to the mission. Believe me, and I'm sorry, I'm giving a very, very different viewpoint here, that I
Yes.
wouldn't rate a person high or low necessarily based on his personal honesty or dishonesty. But I would
Right.
definitely rank that person very poor if he was dishonest to the mission that he or she was doing. So
Of
let
the
us say
organization.
that, yeah, so let us say if some CEO is indulging into some kind of personal, gain through these comforts or through these perks and all that, I wouldn't give too much attention so long as that person is furthering the interest of the organization, the mission of the organization. For me, that is the most important thing, that whether you are loyal to the purpose or not of the organization. That is
Very
how
nice.
few things here or there, I wouldn't seriously give too much attention to. That doesn't mean I'm condoning anything. I'm only saying that if I have to take one quality, then that quality will be honesty to the mission you have undertaken.
Excellent. I think you have very different kind of a thought when it comes to quality for a leader. I really appreciate. Now, you have been in various leadership positions, and some leaders really enjoy their position as a leader. Some people find it very difficult and always they are not comfortable. What is your position with respect to your leadership?
Without doubt that when you are a leader, you have to make decisions, and these decisions can affect the life, career, and pleasure or state of mind of people around you. And those
Right.
those moments are not so easy. That people with whom you are working every day, every night, who is helping you, you are helping them, and you have to take sometimes the decisions which are not so comfortable to make, but you
Correct.
have to make. The point which I was earlier making, when I mentioned this to the director of Accelerate, that I would not get angry with you if you say no to me, because I now know, being there, that what are the difficulties, of resource allocation. So I would say that those moments have been there. But when people believe in your fairness, when people believe that you are only prioritizing rather than preferring, then in that
Right.
case, they understand. They feel that, that he has some priorities at this moment. On those priorities, probably I'm not figuring at this moment, but he has not forgotten me. He has not
Right.
forgotten my own interest. And when the time will come, it will. So, sometimes you have only two positions as a professor, and there are six claimants of that particular thing. You have to choose two people, but that
Correct.
doesn't mean the other four are not fit enough to be the professor. It simply
Correct.
means that at this moment, organization requires these two positions to be filled by these two people who can provide the kind of initial impetus, and then the
Right.
four will also be taken, but in course of time, without any prejudice, without any personal preference. So I would not promote people who are like known to me or I'm comfortable with. I will take those people who are required for the mission of that organization and will explain to the other four that why these particular things. Now, those are the only moments which you could say as moments of discomfort. But eventually, it turned out that they also agreed that, yeah, let's do this. Then let's have a little bit more other, activities. And then I and others can also be accommodated in that particular activity schedule. And everybody will be happy from that point of view. So resource allocation and is the major difficult period for any organization and leader, and that particular thing can be uncomfortable or comfortable on a personal level, and I did face those things too.
Okay. You are saying that as a leader, definitely you will come across uncomfortable situation, but how you manage those situations to the interest of the organization is the most important thing to do.
True. And I will
And there is
explain it to them also. I would also
right.
explain it to them also that why
Yeah.
organizational interest lies at this particular moment with this decision. That doesn't mean that it is a reflection on them. It is
Right.
just that the requirement of mission and the resources that we have are matching for this particular choice. And that's why we are picking up that decision. But that doesn't mean at all that you are forgotten or you will not be used. And there will be other responsibilities that they can take, and they will
Right.
take, and they will be with us. So
So that
nobody had that kind of, because they knew that I'm not going by any personal preferences. I'm only
right.
going by prioritization in the furtherance of the mission.
So this communication is also very important.
Absolutely. And not only communication, your deeds are also important. Words and deeds together must match. Words can make difference without doubt to a very large extent, but not all the time. Because if the words are not matched by the deed, at some point of time, then credibility gap will arise, and that credibility will be totally, I would say, fatal to any leadership. There people do
Okay.
not believe a word of what you say, and that will
Right.
be an issue for leadership at any time.
Right. Now we have a lot of youngsters who are aspiring to be leaders and coming into leadership position. If we have to give two advices to the younger generation of aspiring leaders, what would that be?
First of all, I would preface my advice with this observation that they are probably in the golden era of living as far as we are concerned. That life has never been so better or so good as it is today, whether it is the internet or whether it is the ice communications or different things. Similarly, there are many other things also which have changed attitudinally. For instance, failing is no longer a curse. Failing is no longer a permanent blot. Not trying is a problem. So therefore, I believe that if these people have dreams, and which they should have, everyone should have dreams bigger than they are, then they should try them out. And if they fail, never mind. Neither the family nor the society will look at them as losers. They will look at them as people who tried and trying and are better than others who are not trying. So first, if you have a dream, as you should, then you should try. That is number one. Number two is that don't try to do it alone. Try to have collaborators. Try to have team, whether this team can come from your schoolmates or college mates or university mates or even professors also. If you can develop a team of collaborators around the things that you have, chances are that you will succeed more easily than when you go it alone. Go it alone is not possible to be done today because of the multiple complexities of multiple things. It is not so easy world. It's a multi-layered world. And in a multi-layered world, you have to have a multi-talent team. And that means that you have to depend upon others also. You have to take their advice. You have to win their trust. If you see these startups, all these startups have one thing in common: excellent team behind them.
Okay.
And the moment that that team disintegrates, either the stock prices go down or something else happens, because people also believe that even though you are founder, even though you are the best brain, but you are not the only brain. There are many other brains behind the success of that particular organization. So let them learn the value of collaboration. Let them learn the value of teammates. Build some people, identify their talent, and then work around with them, and then go for that. So these are the two things I would like to say.
I think it summarizes, like, as youngsters, never give up on trying and be collaborative in your approach so that
Absolutely.
you will be able to work with the team to succeed.
Yeah, because resources becomes easier. People will also trust you more with their money, with their, if you have a team behind it, and that particular team can show. And I have seen it here in Dubai as well as, in India, that those people who had a good team behind them, they succeeded faster than the people who went alone. That's the thing I would like to say. And failing is not a problem. Neither it will affect your career, not it will affect. And even if you fail, and many organizations now are giving a very good value to the concept of entrepreneurship, not entrepreneurship, but entrepreneurship, which means you should take risks within my organization. You should try and do something, and then we will fund you. I think this is an excellent opportunity for you to be entrepreneur, even when you are a career person, even when you are doing some kind of a job. So entrepreneurship qualities can be both outside on your own, or it could also be inside as an employee of a particular organization. But both will stand in good stead for you if you have that kind of approach of taking risks, not worrying if you're failing, and building a team of collaborators around you.
Very nice, Dr. Agarwal. Very refreshing thoughts from your side, and I thoroughly enjoyed discussing with you. And I'm sure our listeners will also benefit tremendously from this.
I hope that some of it was useful to your audience. I will be really grateful for this particular, always. I mean, my family will also look forward to what this has been, there, and therefore, hopefully, it will be useful for me also to reflect at some point which thoughts need to be recalibrated or restated.
Definitely. And wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.